The New Orleans Saints lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday, ending their season, and while that was a tough loss given they swept them in the regular season and won by double digits in both games at that, it is time to look ahead and move on to 2021. But this is a team that is in serious trouble moving forward with their roster and their chance to push for a Super Bowl title in the next few years. They of course have players like Alvin Kamara, Marshon Lattimore, and Michael Thomas. But other than that, and with how they're going to have to manage their roster in the next year or so, this will look vastly different than it does now. They desperately wanted to win a second ring in the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era, and were eliminated in each of the last 4 years before they could get to the big game, some undoubtedly more heartbreaking than others. But with every sign pointing to Drew Brees retiring, it is time to look ahead to the next era. But when you look ahead, you quickly realize they are not in a good situation, and that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. But before we get started, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as each only take a second to do, and it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. So when discussing the Saints and moving forward, it starts with the quarterback position and ultimately Drew Brees. At this point in time, everyone suspects that Drew is retiring, and it is pretty much a guarantee he has played in his final game. And that's big moving forward, because if he comes back, which by the way I don't think he does because he has physically deteriorated between injuries and arm strength, and that much we know is clear. But if he does come back, and again we have to note this, I don't think he does, but we have to note it, he will be a $36.1 million cap hit, which is an enormous amount of money for a player of what Brees will be in 2021. Drew played well at times this past year, but on Sunday he was very clearly not a great NFL player, and by the way, that's fine. He is a legend and is 42 years old. It is excused. But coming from a business decision, the Saints probably don't want him back, as no matter what, they are committed over $22 million to him next year, no matter what. And the Saints not wanting him back comment was strictly from a business decision in how he would play. Similarly, the Colts wouldn't want to bring Peyton Manning back for the start of the 2021 season. You get where I'm coming from. But the Saints being tied to Brees for $22 million is the start of how bad of a salary cap situation they're in, because that obviously limits what they can do in free agency this year and tough cuts they will be forced to make. They're going to have their share of cap casualties, and what may benefit the rest of the NFL is some of these guys will be pretty good. Obviously they won't cut Alvin Kamara given he is a top 5 running back, and since he's entered the league has over 6,100 total yards and 58 total touchdowns. But back to the cap casualties part. If they intend to keep players like Teron Armstead, for example, they may extend him just to relieve some of the cap this year, and he probably won't be the only guy they do that for. 2017 first round picks, which were both home runs by the way, so good for the Saints for hitting these picks, right tackle Ryan Ramczyk and Marshon Lattimore have not got their extensions yet, but they 100% deserve them. I can't imagine under any circumstance the Saints don't somehow, someway work the financial cap system and pay these guys, but if worse comes to worse, they will trade them and take what they can get moving forward. But going forward, this is how their 2021 cap, and really the dead money because that's what matters, breaks down. Most notably, they have Drew for $22.6 million, they have Cameron Jordan for $16.9 million, they have Michael Thomas for an $18.8 million cap hit, with him being under contract through the 2024 season. Thomas was guaranteed over $60 million when he signed his extension, so even though he most recently put up a 0-catch game in the playoffs, he is not going to get cut with that much guaranteed. But if they were due to the guarantees later in the contract, it would cost them $23 million against the cap. And the situation is similar with Alvin Kamara due to these extensions, which neither player will get cut. Anyways, moving forward, we have Taysom Hill with a $16 million cap hit. Now, I'm not the biggest Taysom fan, and to be fair, I'm not sure really who is aside from Saints fans, but they owe him a lot of money in 2021. Now, personally, I don't think this was a smart signing, as Taysom can be a well-utilized player, but to think he's worth $16 million at this moment in time, given what they are about to go through cap-wise, he's not, at least not on the Saints. This is a player who has thrown 4 career touchdown passes, and a player that will be 31 years old at the start of the 2021 season. His 4-game sample size of him starting at quarterback would translate to 16 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and most impressively for Taysom, over 800 rushing yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. But what I am going to say about Taysom moving forward is this: NFL coaches will figure him out, and that's all there is to it. They figured out Lamar, who in every sense is better than Taysom Hill, and if they figured him out, or at least learn to slow Lamar down, then they will definitely do the same with Taysom Hill. But moving forward with the cap situation and how ugly it is for the Saints in 2021, Andres Pete is due over $11.5 million, and he is virtually uncuttable due to the guarantees left in his contract. It wouldn't financially make sense to cut a player who is still guaranteed nearly $20 million, especially given they are nearly $100 million over the cap. And I realize there's a lot of numbers in this video, but the last two salaries we will discuss is Malcolm Jenkins and another player. Now, Malcolm has been solid for over a decade, and he was a rookie when the Saints won it all back in 2009. It's honestly pretty cool he came back after a stint with the Eagles, but he is due over $8 million next year, with nearly $13 million still left in guarantees. Translation, barring something crazy or unforeseen, he will not get cut. And what's concerning, or at least noteworthy, is Malcolm will turn 34 in 2021, and at some point though, we obviously don't know when, but at some point his high level of play will fall off. Whether it's next year or the year after, at some point, the Saints have to realize it's coming. However, for now, and the sake of this video, he will be a Saint next year, and it will cost New Orleans over $8 million. And the final contract we will discuss in depth is Teron Armstead. Armstead signed a 5-year, $65 million contract, and this is the final year of that deal. He has $9.5 million with a dead cap hit, and with all the players we've discussed, aside from Drew Brees, someone will have to go. The Saints front office is going to have to weigh decisions out and trade some players, and the likelihood they keep both Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk this year is low. Ryan and Marshon Lattimore will both be on the final year of their rookie contracts, which means it's truly their first year of getting handsomely paid, and each player will be owed over $10 million, Marshon with 10 and Ryan with 11 respectively. But the key with these guys is it's the final year of their deal, and they have nothing moving forward with the Saints. Now, those guys, I would imagine, are players the Saints want to lock up long term, but the reason they are seriously in trouble is they don't have the cap space to do so right now. I briefly mentioned Marshon getting traded earlier, and if they were to do so, again I don't think it will, this would be why. But to be clear, when the Saints trade players this offseason, which at this point it is seemingly inevitable, I highly doubt Marshon or Ramczyk would be players to get dealt. Now, as I was recording this, Adam Schefter came out with a report that Michael Thomas was playing through torn ligaments in their playoff game on Sunday, so that is definitely a justification for why he wasn't playing good and finished a playoff game with 0 catches. But moving forward, this question needs to be asked: who is the Saints quarterback in 2021 and beyond? With Taysom due as much money as he is, then I would imagine he will be the starter for week 1 of next year. Whether he can hold that job long term is another question that will eventually be answered, but as of now, with the cap space they have, which isn't a lot by the way, it's negative, he probably will be the opening day starter in 2021. Now, what I expect to change with the Saints is I do expect them to run the ball more. Alvin Kamara has never been a 1,000-yard runner, and that's not because he's not good, it's because he doesn't get the volume required for that. He has had 1,200 yards or more in every year, total yards that is, with more than 1,500 in 3 of the 4 years. So the 1,000 rushing yards comment isn't slander, it's making a note of what I expect to change going forward. If Taysom is the starter, then obviously the whole offense changes, because Taysom can't do the things Drew can, and Drew certainly cannot do the things Taysom can running the football. But because of that, and the whole offense likely to change from what we've seen since 2017, since Alvin entered the league, I do expect him to have less receptions and more carries, which in turn would make him a 1,000-yard running back moving forward. Since the Saints have lost in the playoffs, we know they select 28th in the first round in April, and as we said, the likelihood both Armstead and Ramczyk are both back is low, so they could go tackle with their first pick. There will be several quarterbacks that go in the first round, but with the Saints only having 5 picks at this point in time, I highly doubt they trade up to draft a quarterback in the first round with such little draft capital and with so many holes to fill the roster. Remember, they are well over the cap due to having a lot of good players, but they also have to have players to fill their roster out, the rest of the 53-man roster. So due in large part to that, the Saints are going to be making moves this offseason, with one of them coming at tackle prior to the draft. So a tackle with their first round selection is entirely possible at this point in time. Starting Taysom Hill for a full season is going to be interesting, and that's the way it looks as of now. If Jameis Winston were to stay in NOLA, it would be on a very cheap deal, and if he does and ends up starting at some point, it could very well be a situation like Case Keenum with the Vikings in 2017, or with the Ryan Tannehill with the Titans in 2019. He would earn money from someone down the road, with players like Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas by his side. The Saints in 2021 are going to resemble a team that's past its peak, and is trying to resemble a team they once were. What will strongly benefit them, though, is the Falcons probably won't be great, largely due to their defense, and the Panthers are still rebuilding, so they are more than likely going to go 3-1 or 4-0 between those games. And if they do, then for the final 12, they only have to be a 500 team to make the playoffs, meaning only 500 to be a 10-win team. So there is a real possibility to make the playoffs in 2021, but if they do, they're not going to go far. Remember, they would have to go on Green Bay or go to Seattle in the playoffs to win, and with Taysom Hill or Jameis starting, I don't see that happening. And they're more than likely not going to be serious Super Bowl contenders for the next few years. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would be appreciated, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.